So I just got home from watching Wonder Woman, the biggest movie in North America currently, and I have a few thoughts on the movie. Overall, I would have to say that I was a pretty big fan of the movie. Let me focus on the positives here first, because I think there's a lot of positives. First off, Gal Gadot, awesome. I think she embodies the Wonder Woman character extremely well, which I didn't think when I first heard her cast. I just didn't think she was the right look, but she totally won me over. She was the right pick for this movie, and I want to celebrate the fact that this was a movie directed by a woman with the biggest opening of all time for a woman directed film. This is the first woman superhero movie, like, really? I mean, well, you could count Catwoman, but should we? Really? Does anyone even know that that movie existed? Be that as it may, I think it is very, very strong. The best thing about it is when she is acting like a hero. One of my biggest criticisms of the other DC films, specifically the Superman films, is that they feel like they can't make their superheroes be heroes, that they can't do good things without them like struggling with it, or like I don't know, making it like this big torturous thing. They don't just show them being a hero and wanting to do good things. And Wonder Woman, from the very beginning, from a young girl all the way up to the very end of the film, is driven by trying to do good things and being heroic. There's a scene kind of smack dab in the middle of the film. There's this war scene where she runs out onto the field and these bullets are flying out and she has her shield up and she's like throwing her sword around, and she is a hero through and through. And I eat that shit up. I think it is so good. That is what I want my superheroes to be. Not that I can't have them struggle with things. Both Tony Stark and Batman have to be shown that they are better as superheroes than just rich playboys. Spider-Man needs to struggle with the fact that with great power comes great responsibility. There is cool arcs that you can have with that. But at the end of the day, they still want to be heroes. They're shown that why heroism is a good thing to have. And it feels like the DC movies up until this point have been almost ashamed that they are superhero movies in the first place. Now, there are some quibbles that I have. I can be really nitpicky with some of the accents in this movie. I'm going to refrain from that. Talking with my roommate, I could also be pretty nitpicky about the hairstyling and choice of costume that Wonder Woman has, which I feel can probably be said about most superheroes in general, with capes and ridiculous outfits that they all need to wear. The one thing I'm going to focus on is the thing that I feel hampers almost every superhero film, both Marvel and DC, where the ending, they don't really stick the landing at the very, very end. We have this really interesting concept of this woman who wants to end war in the world, confronted with this big bad, and then it kind of just evolves into a bunch of punching things in the face, which I realize is kind of the trope of superhero movies in general. I just felt that up until that point, they were doing something really cool and interesting, and it kind of just fell flat for me at the very, very end. I still will say that I would highly recommend the movie. I think it is something that does need to be seen on the big screen, and I'm a fan where this goes. This kind of reinvigorated my love for the DC universe after, I would say, 3 awful films that I really did not like. So I'm hoping that this is a step in the right direction. Let me know what you think, though, down in the comments. Let's talk just a little bit about House of Cards. House of Cards is really the first super popular Netflix series. There had been some before it, but this is the one that showed that Netflix was now this new prestige online place that was akin to HBO that could have high quality content. And the way that they figured this out to make this show was literally the algorithm, the all-important Netflix algorithm that we do not get to really know about. They knew that people loved David Fincher movies, and they know they loved Kevin Spacey movies. So why not we just put that together and go with a series kind of borrowed from the UK called House of Cards, and voila, here we are 5 years later. I follow it since it first came out. I'm a big fan of it, even as dense as it gets. And this is a show that cannot really be passively watched. You do need to be focusing on what's going on. There's these little plot points and little facial tics and acting that goes on that you really need to make sure you are understanding and following along. And I'll even say, as someone who does watch it, there is constantly times in this new season where it's like, wait a second, what is this character doing now? Like, where were they? What did they do 5 years ago? And maybe just because I'm a stupid man, but it sometimes you have to like go to Wikipedia, at least I do, and be like, okay, what was it that they did? Oh, right, yeah, they did this, and this. The new season, and I'll be upfront, as you may be able to see behind me here, I'm only 5 episodes in. I'm about to watch the 6th episode right now, so I'll update you once I finish the series. But Netflix keeps updating stuff, and I can't keep up with every single thing. Orange is the New Black just came out today, so sorry. It starts off very, very strong. I mean, the two leads here, Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright, are phenomenal. They are so good at what they do that I could really just watch them do anything. And they're on top of their game. And I know the producers have said with the political situation in the US that this season was really hard to write because anything that they had come up with before seemed not as ridiculous anymore because some stuff was already happening in US politics. And I find it absolutely fascinating. They really do take a look at the Constitution of the United States and the laws of like Congress and the Senate and really create this fiction of what would happen if a person in the United States, a candidate, was able to really subvert it and wile their way into something like the presidency in the most nefarious of ways. And the thing I find fascinating about the show, as awful as Frank Underwood is as a person, he seemingly wants to do good things for the country. It's this weird thing where he's willing to, spoiler alert for other seasons, but he's willing to murder, maim people, blackmail. He lies and he cheats and he just takes what he wants because he wants more and more power. But his ultimate goal is to create great things for the country he's a part of. And that's just a really interesting, rich character to follow. And Robin Wright is able to elevate her game, I think, even in this season, where it's the looks that she gives, the eye movements that she provides, of Claire Underwood, his wife, who is just as scheming and is just as crafty as he is, and possibly even more so. Anyways, I'm really fascinated by the series. I'm a big fan of it. I think season 5 is still pretty strong. The weakest season, I think, was maybe season 3, where it got really too dense even for me. But the last couple seasons, I think they're like on the top of their game. This is no exception. But maybe it falls apart by the end. Let me know what you think about House of Cards down below. Even though it's raining, I thought just outside of the National Music Center was the best place to talk about my last thing that I wanted to discuss here this week. So I don't normally talk about music because I don't normally believe I have the proper vocabulary to talk about it effectively. That being said, I really wanted to talk about this new music album that came out recently digitally over on, I believe, Bandcamp. That's what I'm going to say, but the link will be down below. And I should point out that I am friends with the musician. I am, or I should say at least friendly with Cullen. I don't want to put words into his mouth necessarily. But his new album, 19-23, which I believe is probably supposed to be read 19 to 23 because it's about him aging from those ages. So that being said, I am a big fan of him regardless, and this is no different. This is able to mix his personality so incredibly well. It is introspective. It has these kind of dreamlike quality that happens with it, where I feel like I'm going in and out of different situations of his life. There's these real world sounds that are used quite effectively throughout all the different tracks. Can be funny at certain times, introspective at other times, like I said already. I don't know, it's just a really good, well-rounded album. Still in a poppy vein. It's getting really windy out here. So still in that poppy vein, but also lends itself to being not something you would necessarily hear on the radio if you switched it on. It's not that type of poppy. It's kind of this mix of instrumentation and real-world sounds and effective vocals that I'm just a really, really big fan of. I'm trying to think if there is a musician that I would compare it with, and I don't know if I can come up with one that's gonna sound right. Like I can see his influence of like Bowie in it, but it doesn't really sound like David Bowie. I can see, inspirations from a lot of the different independent musicians out there right now, like Mac DeMarco and those types of people, but it doesn't really sound like them either. It is absolutely 100% Cullen, and I think that's to the music's benefit in that case. Like I said, there's going to be a link down to this album below. I would definitely check it out. It is pay what you want, although suggested $7 for the album. I did that, and I think you won't necessarily be disappointed. Just like the Ramones, even though it doesn't sound anything like anything that the Ramones did, it's kind of like all killer, no filler. There's no song that's really over 3 minutes long, or barely any songs that are over 3 minutes long. So the whole album, I think, is like clocks in at just under 28 minutes. Well worth your time. I am a big fan, if I haven't said that enough times already. So before I get blown away, have a good week.